Ich habe was gefunden. Ich habe einen Top. Zieh mir einen Top an. Bis gleich.
It was after midnight when Eric Dawson's phone buzzed. His top investigator, Mark, sent a single photo with no caption. Eric tapped it open, and the world around him seemed to stop. A woman, live on camera, broadcasting to thousands of strangers. Bright lights, fake smiles, and a username designed to pull in attention. But Eric didn't need the username. He didn't need the grainy resolution. He knew that face. He had kissed that face goodnight for over 20 years. It was his wife. And that was the moment the retired FBI agent realized. The woman he thought he knew might be living a life he couldn't even begin to imagine. Eric's first instinct was denial. Maybe it was a look-alike, maybe some cruel deepfake. But his training wouldn't let him dismiss evidence. He zoomed in. The faint scar above her eyebrow from a skiing accident. The way she curled a strand of hair around her finger when she was nervous. It wasn't just her face. It was her. His chest tightened. Lisa, his wife of 2 decades, the woman who lived comfortably back in Virginia, the woman who had no shortage of money, was now on a live stream for strangers. Why? Eric poured himself a drink, trying to steady the storm building inside him. Retired or not, he had spent 25 years in the FBI chasing liars, cheaters, and criminals. He thought he could read anyone, yet here he was, blindsided in his own marriage. The phone buzzed again. This time Mark called. Eric answered, voice flat. Where did you get this? One of the flagged accounts, sir. It came up during a sweep. She's not new at it either. This channel's growing. Clean production, steady schedule. Honestly, it looks like someone's backing her. Eric gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean backing her? I mean she's not doing this alone. The payments, the promotion, the setup, it's too organized. Somebody's managing her. Eric's stomach dropped. If someone else was involved, this wasn't just about money. It was leverage, control, maybe blackmail, maybe worse. He hung up without another word and pulled his old bureau laptop from the drawer. His hands moved automatically, muscle memory from decades of chasing ghosts across digital trails. Within minutes, he was tracing the payment streams tied to Lisa's account. What he found made his blood run cold. The money wasn't flowing to her. It was being rerouted through offshore accounts connected to a man Eric knew all too well. A ghost from his FBI past. A man the Bureau had once tried and failed to bring down. A man with international reach, deep connections, and no mercy for anyone who crossed him. And now, somehow, his wife was tangled in that web. Eric leaned back in his chair, the glow of the screen painting his face in pale blue. He was no longer looking at just his wife. He was looking at a threat, a puzzle, a case he had no choice but to solve. And this time, it wasn't about protecting a client. It was about saving his marriage or exposing the truth that could shatter it forever. Eric barely slept after that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face on that screen. Not Lisa, the wife who made Sunday pancakes, but the other Lisa. The one putting on a show for faceless strangers. By sunrise, he wasn't just angry. He was determined. By mid-morning, he was already moving. Old habits die hard, and retirement hadn't dulled his investigative instincts. He called in Mark. I want every scrap of intel on that account. Financials, IP traces, linked devices, subscriber data. Don't leave a single stone unturned. Mark hesitated. Sir, are you sure you want to go down this road? Once you see everything, there's no one seeing it. Eric's jaw tightened. I already saw enough. Get me the rest. Hours later, Mark returned with a file thicker than Eric expected. Inside were printouts, screenshots, and a detailed map of transactions. Eric flipped through them one by one, his pulse hammering louder with each page. Lisa wasn't just dabbling, she was entrenched. Regular uploads, predictable schedules, professional lighting. And the money, tens of thousands, circulating through shell accounts and ending up overseas. Eric's mind raced. Lisa didn't need money. Their investments, his pension, her inheritance. She had more than enough. So if it wasn't about survival, what was it about? Thrill? Control? Or was she forced into it? That possibility gnawed at him. He thought back to the name tied to the accounts. The ghost from his bureau days. This wasn't coincidence. His wife hadn't stumbled into this. She had been pulled in. But by who? And why? Eric decided he needed eyes on her. Not as a husband. He knew his emotions would cloud things. But as an investigator. So he flew to Virginia, under the guise of a routine visit. When Lisa greeted him at the door, everything seemed normal. Too normal. She smiled, kissed his cheek, asked about his flight. For a moment, he almost believed it had all been a mistake. But then he noticed the small details. The faint glitter still clinging to her hair. The subtle makeup she never wore at home. The quick glance at her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. Eric kept his expression calm. But inside, suspicion churned like acid. That night, while she slept, he quietly searched the house. He checked drawers, closets, even the basement. Nothing. Until he opened her office desk, there it was, a sleek laptop, newer than the one she usually used. Password protected. He slipped it into his bag without hesitation. Back at his hotel, Eric booted it up. His hands moved with the precision of a man who had cracked tougher systems than this. Within minutes, he was inside. What he saw made his stomach twist. There were videos, dozens of them, organized by date. Lisa wasn't just live streaming. She was cataloging, saving, and archiving everything. And the titles, they weren't generic. They were coded. Phrases Eric recognized from his FBI past. Terms used in covert ops. Phrases criminals used for smuggling runs. This wasn't entertainment. This was a cover. The live streams were bait, a distraction. Hidden in the background of the videos, embedded in props, scrawled in notebooks, even printed on clothing, were coded messages, coordinates, drop points, transaction references. Lisa wasn't just performing. She was transmitting information. Eric leaned back, heart pounding. His wife wasn't simply living a double life for money or thrills. She was a messenger, a courier, a pawn, or maybe even a willing player in an international network. And he had been blind to it for years. The weight of it nearly crushed him. Every memory of their marriage, every laugh, every holiday, it all blurred into doubt. Had she ever really loved him? Or had she been using his FBI career, his connections, his trust, to keep herself safe in a world he never knew she was part of? As dawn broke, Eric made a choice. He wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. He needed more. He needed to know how deep she was in, and who else was pulling the strings. Because if Lisa was working with the man Eric suspected, the ghost he had once tried to hunt down, this wasn't just personal. This was dangerous. Mark called that morning with an update. We traced one of the accounts linked to her streams. The next cash out is scheduled in Montreal. Tomorrow night, Eric didn't hesitate. I'll be there, Montreal, a city Eric knew well from cross-border cases. But this time, it wasn't bureau business. It was personal. He packed light, armed with nothing but his instincts, his training, and a gnawing fear that the woman he loved was no longer the woman he thought she was. When his flight touched down, Mark was already waiting with a surveillance setup. From their vantage point, they watched the location, a quiet cafe that looked perfectly ordinary. But Eric knew better. Nothing about this was ordinary anymore. As night fell, the Mark appeared. A courier, young, nervous, carrying a duffel bag. Moments later, Lisa walked in, calm, collected, almost radiant under the soft lights. Eric's chest tightened as he watched her sit down, exchange words, and discreetly slide a flash drive across the table. His wife, his partner, passing intel right in front of him. Mark looked at him, waiting for the signal. Eric's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to intervene, to stop her before she walked out with blood on her hands. But something inside held him back. Because deep down, Eric knew this was bigger than her, bigger than their marriage, bigger than anything he had faced before. And if he moved too soon, he might not just lose his wife, he might lose his life. Eric's knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of the table, watching Lisa walk out of that cafe with the courier. His pulse hammered so hard it almost drowned out the city noise. Every fiber of his FBI-trained instinct screamed to move, to intervene, to stop her. But he forced himself still. He needed the bigger picture. Mark whispered, "Do we follow?" Eric nodded once, his jaw clenched tight. They trailed her through narrow streets until she entered a high-rise hotel near the waterfront. Inside, she met someone. A man Eric recognized instantly, even from a distance. Tall, silver hair, a face like granite carved from stone. The Ghost. Years ago, Eric had hunted him, a shadow broker, a manipulator of people and secrets, slipping between law enforcement cracks like smoke. The Bureau never pinned him down, but Eric remembered the cases, the ruined lives, the trails of coded messages. And now, impossibly, that man was sitting with Lisa. The truth struck like a hammer blow. She wasn't just working for him. She was working with him. Eric's throat tightened. His own wife, his partner of 20 years, was allied with the very man he once swore to bring down. Through the surveillance lens, Eric watched Lisa lean close, whisper something, then laugh. That laugh. The same laugh she used on him. The one that once melted his anger after long days. Hearing it now, given to another man, was like a knife in his chest. Mark shifted beside him. "We can take them now. Call it in. I'll get the locals involved," but Eric shook his head. His instincts screamed louder now. If they moved too soon, they'd lose everything. No. He had to see it through. Hours later, when Lisa finally returned to her car alone, Eric made his move. He followed her, shadowing until she pulled into a quiet suburban neighborhood, parking outside a townhouse. She got out, looking tired, looking like the same woman who once packed his lunches and reminded him to call his mother. Eric stepped from the shadows. "Lisa," she froze. Slowly, she turned. Her eyes widened just for a second, then settled into calm composure. "Eric, what are you doing here?" He held her gaze, searching for the truth in her expression. "Don't play games." "I saw you, the cafe." The man. Her jaw tightened. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she sighed. "So, you finally figured it out." The casualness of her tone hit harder than any bullet ever could. "Why?" Eric's voice cracked despite himself. "Why would you do this? You had everything. We had everything." Lisa shook her head slowly. "You think you knew me, Eric, but you only ever knew the version I let you see. The wife, the caretaker, the background character in your FBI story. But I got tired of being background." His chest burned. "So you sold secrets? Played couriers? Lied every single day?" She stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. "I survived. I built something of my own. Something you couldn't control. That man you hunted? He gave me purpose. He gave me freedom." Eric's vision blurred with fury and heartbreak. "Freedom. Lisa, that man destroys people. He uses them. And now he's using you." Her eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Maybe, but at least I chose it." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy as stone. Then headlights swept across the street, 2 black SUVs pulling up fast. Doors opened. Men in suits spilled out. Mark shouted from behind Eric, "We've got company." The Ghost stepped out of the lead SUV. Calm, confident. He looked straight at Eric. "Agent Dawson, or should I say, Civilian Dawson now. You never could let go, could you?" Eric squared his shoulders. "This ends tonight," the Ghost smiled faintly. "No, tonight is just the beginning." He nodded toward Lisa. "She belongs with me now. And you're already history." Gunmetal gleamed in the men's hands. Mark raised his own weapon, tense. In that split second, Eric's world tilted on its axis. His training screamed to act. His heart screamed to save Lisa. But deep down, he knew she had already chosen her side. Lisa's voice cut through the tension. "Eric, go home. Please, don't make this worse." Those words. That plea. It broke him in ways no bullet ever could. Eric took one last long look at her, memorizing the face he had once trusted more than anything. Then he slowly lowered his hands. Mark cursed under his breath, but followed his lead. The ghost smirked. Smart man. And just like that, Lisa turned her back on him and walked toward the SUV, slipping into the shadows with her new world, her new life. Eric stood frozen in the street, the hum of engines fading into the night. His wife, his life, everything he thought he knew. Gone. Not to death, but to choice. When silence finally fell, Eric whispered the truth to himself, bitter and hollow. She was never mine to lose. She was never who I thought she was. And in that moment, Eric Dawson realized the cruelest betrayal wasn't that Lisa had left him for another life. It was that she had been a stranger all along, wearing the mask of a wife, hiding a world he was never meant to see.